Harris, along with Randall Cunningham, QB1, and the voice of WQSB scoreboard, along with Jeff Allen, Phil Harris. Beyond the Booth every Monday night, covering all the area high school football and more. Welcome aboard, Phil. No guests tonight, just me and you.
Yeah, I guess it's a good time to do this because we've got high school football that got started in Tennessee. In Tennessee and Georgia last week. It goes officially live in Alabama this week. So we are officially into high school football season. We got a week away before the college season starts. But I just enjoy the start of high school football season. It's an exciting time.
Phil, live on the river 90 or the country roads 93.3 on the school's YouTube station. It was so cool. School's YouTube station and BTC television, Sequatchie Valley. I did Sequatchie Bledsoe this weekend, and may have been just as many outlets as we had it ever at one time. It was almost kind of weird because, like I do, calling football on the radio and calling football on TV, it's vastly different.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you're calling on radio, you've got to paint a picture.
Right.
That's your job. You have got to tell a story and paint a picture. That's the goal. When you're on TV, you just kind of want to sort of analyze things and let people see what they may, because everybody's going to see stuff different. You just kind of want to analyze everything.
Well, we had probably about 3,000 people in Dunlap. We'll get to it here in a minute. I got a bunch of highlights I'd like to show, and now Phil's not going to be able to see the highlights. Every week I do this to him. I forget that we're doing this via audio, and I download a bunch of highlights, and you don't get to see them, Phil.
Well, that's fine. Maybe we'll get my computer up next time. I've got one for it, but just hadn't got it set up for it. But maybe by next week we can get this done.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Let's start in Alabama. Not a lot going on in Alabama, but I want to get your gut reaction to a few things. Week 0 in Alabama. And let's explain week 0 in Alabama to people. Some schools played a jamboree, and some schools didn't do anything. Is that correct?
Well, the last week was basically jamboree games, and how that's done in Alabama now. If you don't have spring practice, you can have a jamboree game the week before week 0 comes. That's what a lot of teams do, especially when you've got new coaches coming in. They allow this to happen. I know Cedar Bluff and Section play. Section's got a new coach. Cedar Bluff's got a new coach. So they played last week. This week is week 0. Now, a lot more teams play, but when you play week 0, you have to have an open date.
Right.
Okay. And there's still some games that are going on that are jamboree games, but we officially get started. This is week 0, but the teams that don't play this week will play 10 consecutive weeks. So that's kind of the way it works. In other words, you've got 11 weeks to play 10 games.
Absolutely. So was the Cedar Bluff section game, Center, Scottsboro, Fort Payne, Oxford, was that jamborees, or were they counting games?
They were all jamborees. So
okay.
Most of those, their varsity played 2 quarters. Center beat Scottsboro 14-9. That's basically the varsity. Fort Payne lost to Oxford. Oxford was very impressive. They've got 2 great defensive tackles. They beat Fort Payne 21-0 in 2 quarters. And then Cedar Bluff and Section, it ended up like 35-20. That was kind of a 4-quarter game, but I think in the 2 quarters the varsity played, they may have played part of the 3rd quarter. It was like 35-14, and Section's JV team scored a touchdown in that game. So Cedar Bluff had an impressive start to the season. They struggled a year ago, went 4-6, and just barely made it into the playoffs. And I'm expecting big things maybe later in the year from Section, because they've kind of started over from scratch, but they've got some good players.
Well, yeah, and it's a program that you've been waiting for that kind of breakout year for a long time,
Yeah. That, of course, Riley Edwards is the new coach at Section. I'm expecting big things out of him. He's a fantastic coach, and I think Sexton's going to do well. It's just going to take them a little while to get their feet on the ground because he's one of those coaches that kind of sort of comes in, starts all over, knocks everybody down to nothing, and then starts building everybody back up. So it's the kind of coach he is.
Well, we don't want to leave our friends. Tyler Van, of course, last week's guest. River City Media, the host of the Tyler Van Show. Phil, we haven't said a day. We don't know if we're going to do it on Tuesday or Wednesday. But every Tuesday or Wednesday here was very successful over Stevenson. Sylvania 24, North Jackson nothing. And then Sylvania 28, North Sand Mountain 7. Go ahead.
And I think that kind of shows you, I don't think North Jackson and North Sand Mountain's that bad. I think both of them's pretty good football teams. I know North Sand Mountain is, but cat's out of the bag now. We know Sylvania's good. Coach Van kind of sort of hides that, don't want to really boast about that type of thing. But we knew they were going to be good this year. This is a senior-laden team.
Yeah.
And they got things done in that jamboree game. And I'm sure he wanted to show a lot of things because they don't play opening week. They don't play this week. They don't play next week till they go to Saks. So I think he may have spent a little more time with his offensive unit so that he has a week to correct mistakes before he goes into his first ball game. So I think he kind of wanted his kids to go all out, didn't really back off that much. I think he was so, concentrating, wanting them to execute. And that's important because they don't play week 0.
I did get to see the huddle film. Watched part of it today on my lunch break. I'm going to tell you, I knew they were going to be good running the football, but they have a collection backs in Parham and Anderson and the freshman, I cannot remember his name, 15, but they have 3 backs that can really go, Phil, and 3 that you could trust almost any time in a ball game. And of course, Aiden Parham split time last year with 22, but that running attack looked awful good.
Yeah, they will be. That'll be the strength of this team. Of course, that takes pressure off your quarterback, because they're young in that aspect, but their quarterback has a good supporting cast. So that's going to make it easier for him. But anytime you can run the football effectively as they are, you don't have to ask your quarterback to do so much. You just kind of let him play within himself.
Let's move down to Georgia and get some scores in. I got a couple of games at the end I want to get some comments on. Armuchee 35, Gordon Central 14, Athens Academy 42, Dade County 7, Blessed Trinity 17, Calhoun 7. I was kind of shocked by that score, Phil, but Calhoun will be fine. They always are.
Yeah.
Coahulla Creek in a big win for Coahulla Creek, 42-13 over Marion County. Coosa over Southeast Whitfield, 28-25. Dalton over North Berry, 35-7. Gilmore, 42-14 over Lakeview Port Obitor. And Lafayette, 28-3 over Chattanooga. One game you were at, Phil, Tryon Gordon Lee.
Yeah, that early in the ball game, Gordon Lee had their chances to stay in that game, but a couple of breaks didn't fall their way. They had an opportunity to tie the game up at 14 late in the second quarter, but after that, they gave up a 4th down and 2 from Tryon had the ball about their 40-yard line and decided to go for it on 4th and 2, and they broke it for a touchdown. And things just did not go well for Gordon Lee after that. And Gordon Lee's a young football team, but I saw a lot of good things out of them. But Tryon's got a fine football team. They are very good. They won the game 56-14. But Tryon is good year in and year out.
And that's a huge rivalry, too, Tryon.
Oh, definitely. I think there's the 89th meeting between the two. So, yes, and it's one of those. They don't play in, they're not in the same classification, but that game means a great deal. This year they moved it to game 1. So good and well all summer these two was getting ready to go after each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll call the battle south of Chattanooga that every year is, when I put the list together, and I did this recently, of the best Chattanooga area rivalries. And I don't know as much about North Georgia football as some, but I always find a spot in that list for Ringo Heritage. Phil, two schools that kind of split. Heritage was kind of born out of Ringo a little bit, and Ringo gets the victory over Heritage, 21-12, and that is a huge battle down in that North Georgia area.
Yeah, I think it was just a line up and just keep it basic and play your best, and that turned out to be a pretty good football team. And I think Ringo kind of had their way running the football, and that was key in that game. I mean, that's a huge win to start the year for Ringo. And I think, as a matter of fact, I think they host Gordon Lee this week. So a good start for the Ringo Tigers to start the season.
Now, and if somebody wants to be part of this show that covers North Georgia football, or, an Aaron McKenzie out there that lives in North Georgia wants to come on once a week and talk North Georgia football, we'd welcome them on here, Phil. It'd be nice to have somebody. I'm in Tennessee covering, you're in Alabama covering. We kind of have to do North Georgia via the TV network, but if anybody out there would like to get involved, please give us a yell. Even if it's writing up few stories.
Aaron lives over here in Alabama now. So he lives over here in Valley Head now, so he's not over there anymore. And of course, we kind of want to touch in and make sure Dade County, they kind of got off to a rough start, but they've been pretty good the last couple of years. But they jumped right into the frying pan in week 1.
Yeah, that was a bit. Whoever it is, I didn't know Aaron moved back. Looking for a North Georgian football person, if you could just give us a few minutes each week. Dade County's much improved over what they were a few years ago. But that was a matchup you did, I looked at that schedule and I saw week 1 and I thought, that's probably not the way you want to kick off your season if you're Dade County playing Athens Academy, a football power in Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a tough way to start the season. Of course, they get Marion County. Don't get any easier. They get Marion County this week at Dade County. So it's tough. Starting out, they've been. I think week 2 last year they played North Sand Mountain, but this year they've got Marion County on the docket.
Yeah, Marion County we're about to talk to. Real impressive over East Ridge this weekend. That's just some Chattanooga scores, and everybody that saw Jordan Ross from Vestavia Hills is committing at 7:00. If we're on the air when he commits, I do have live coverage hooked up to on 3. We cannot bring it on here to you, but we will talk about Jordan Ross here in a minute, and hopefully we'll be able to give the live commitment on the air. His finalists are Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. It's a pretty good group, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. So, I don't know if really and truly, I might be wrong, but I don't really know if really and truly Alabama's in the mix for that. Of course, a lot of people says he may be coming to Tennessee. We don't know. We don't know that for sure, but it'll be exciting wherever he does go, because I reckon he is a raw talent.
Yes, I got some video. I got about 2 minutes of video I want to talk over with you in a little bit, and just give you. I'm gonna tell you, Phil. It's free video. It's his huddle film. If anybody wants to watch, they move him all over the field. I don't know that he's learned to play football yet, Phil. He's raw. What he does do well, and he's polished at, is rush the quarterback. He's one of those kids wherever he lands. I think his freshman year could see snaps just rushing the quarterback. Get the quarterback.
Yeah, of course, I'm sure the big goal is going to be when he gets to, and of course, when he commits, they'll start him on a program, is to put weight on. I'm sure that's going to be the major factor in that, just put weight on him without losing his speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll be able to comment on that here in just a little bit and know a little bit. But let's go ahead and let's head up to Tennessee, Phil, and I'm going to save Sequatchie Bledsoe for the end where I was at, but I do want to talk a little bit about some scores up in the Chattanooga area. First of all, I want to talk about Boyd Buchanan getting out 52-0 on Chattanooga Prep. For those that don't know, Chattanooga Prep's a newer school in Chattanooga. I put a football program together, frankly struggling a little bit, but they're playing South Pittsburg. They're playing Boyd Buchanan. I ain't afraid of the competition, but Boyd Buchanan with a 17-time state champion as their head coach, Phil, Boyd's turning into what we all thought Boyd would be.
Yeah, yeah, they are a very solid football program. And yeah, Chattanooga Prep, I saw that. I knew they was a new school, and I thought, boy, they're going to take their lumps for a while. But you got to jump right in with the wolves. There ain't much you can do about it. But hopefully those kids won't get discouraged getting off to a rough start like that.
Yeah.
But Boyd Buchanan, very impressive win.
Bradley County with 2 Tennessee commits on their football team, a quarterback that actually transferred from Ray County to Bradley County, handles McMinn County, who's kind of been the bully of that region the last couple of years. Bradley Central 41, McMinn County 21.
Yeah, because McMinn County year in, year out, traditionally a very strong football team coming out of Athens. And that game was at Athens too. It was at McMinn County.
Yes.
But Bradley Central, of course, we know they're going to be very solid this year. I mean, when you got 2 or 3 players like they've got right on the roster, gives you a lot to build around. So, I'm not surprised by them winning that one, but I still think McMinn County is going to be a force to reckon with.
Yeah, of course, Buchanan and Gore both committed to the balls. And I think they have either 3 or 4 other kids that's either going to be mid-major or D2 commits. Maybe you'll see someone commit to somewhere like MTSU or UTC. They probably got legitimately 6 or 7 kids that'll play college football at a high level, Phil.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to go see them play. Probably won't get to, but it would be fun to get them to see. Maybe during the playoffs, so give opportunity.
Maybe. Chattanooga Grace 20, Lookout Valley 7. Cleveland, the other side of that Bradley Central rival with a new coach, 49-36 over Clinton. And again, Clinton, kind of a traditional power in that region.
Yeah, well, Cleveland's always going to be athletic, and they're always going to be a force. They always have been, even back in the Coach Monroe days.
Yep.
Cleveland traditionally very strong. I expect good things out of them. They may not be on the level with Bradley Central, but they're still going to have a good year.
Cumberland County, a program, I think I counted up 4 wins in 2 years. But they get a win in game 1, 10-7 over Scott County. The next game, team I've got this week, matter of fact, this is our week 2 and week 4 opponent at Sequatchie County playing Marion County big over East Ridge, 41-12. Both of those coaches, real good friends of mine, Phil. Coach Starkey, a second-year coach at Marion County, coming off of 5-5. I think anybody would be foolish to think 5-5 is acceptable at Marion County. I don't think it was acceptable to Coach Starkey either.
No, definitely not. Of course, that's getting off to a good start because East Ridge has got a pretty good football team.
Yep.
But that just goes to show you that Marion County is going to be very tough. Very tough opponent. There ain't no doubt about that. Of course, traditionally they always are.
Coach Barger been on our show already at East Ridge. Unfortunately, the storyline when I talked to Coach Barger a little bit, his team had 6 turnovers. Hard to win a football game with 6 turnovers.
Yeah, when you just kind of sort of hand it out there, that's not good. So, in all likelihood, and I thought that they're a much better team than what they showed week 1, and I think you'll see a much improved team when Sequatchie County comes there this week.
Yes.
East Ridge will probably be head and shoulders better than they were week 1.
McCallie over Chattanooga Christian. Christian minus 2 All-State players, one of them being Boo Carter at Bradley Central, Phil. Kind of having to rebuild a little bit over there. McCallie, 53, Christian, 13. McCallie might be the best team in this area this year.
Oh, definitely so, because Chattanooga Christian is still good. I saw them in spring, and even though they lost one of their best receivers and Boo Carter is gone, they still are a talented football team. Probably not real deep. I think they kind of held their own for a little while against McCallie, but once McCallie got rolling in the second half, there just wasn't much Chattanooga Christian can do. But when Chattanooga Christian plays teams at their level, because they really stepped out, of their league in this game, they're still going to be good. Definitely a playoff contender.
Your old school, Ooltewah, 41-14 over Chattanooga Central. Good for the Owls to get off a start. Who struggled the last few years.
Yeah, they have. When they got like 2-8 last year,
yeah.
they had a rough season, and it's kind of been back and forth. I think you're going to see this all the time. If East Hamilton's good, Ooltewah's not going to be very good. If Ooltewah's good, East Hamilton's not going to be good because they're right next door to each other, and it's going to go back and forth. And right around the time they built East Hamilton High School, Ooltewah was a power there for a while, but they kind of sort of sank back a little bit. But they're going to be back. There's no doubt about it. A 2-8 season is just, lately has not been good for Ooltewah because really, if you really think about it, they're not one of those teams you think about as being that perennial playoff school. But even back when I went to school there, they were going to win 7 or 8 games every year.
Speaking of East Ham, we could beat East Ham 40, Hickson 13. Everybody knows my picture right now up is of some of the Hickson players. Phil, they lost their starting quarterback a week ago. And even though they have a former starter on their team, it's hard to take that kid and say, you're a middle linebacker, now you're a quarterback in 1 week.
Yeah, because I think what happens in a case like that, you kind of lose your identity. And until you find that you're going to struggle, and then right out of the gate, you play somebody like East Hamilton, the guys probably got hit in the mouth a little bit early and kind of sort of were second-guessing themselves because, East Hamilton kind of ran away with that game. And I know it's much better than that.
Absolutely.
But maybe this will kind of close ranks for them, and they'll get better now.
I think Hickson needs a game that's manageable and to go out and just kind of roll the footballs out, Phil, and start playing. I know Chase Barn is great young man playing quarterback right now. Of course, good tailback, being recruited by UVA Wise and Coco Kendricks, and of course, the future All-State punter place kicker Isaac Smith. I got some faith that they're going to win some games down the road. And, of course, led up front by Jeff Digman. Hickson's going to be fine. I still feel like they're going to win some games.
Yeah, I feel like, and I don't know what the coaching staff's thinking right now, but probably more than likely you just kind of sort of forget about the film, get past it, and just kind of go back to basics.
Yep.
Let's just go back to basics. Let's make it simple, guys. And let's get a win under our belt and then see what happens. I think you got to, kind of sort of, hey, just forget about this one. Everything's gone bad for us. It's time to get better. Let's just go back to basics and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because you don't want to lose the kids this early in the season, and you've got an opportunity to right the ship. So I think being basic, keeping things simple, I think will be very good for this football team's confidence.
I think you are correct. Phil, let's get around the area a little more. Of course, top of the hour, Jordan Ross from Vestavia Hills will be committing. So hopefully we'll have an update on here tonight before we get off from here. Let's go on and look at the Battle of the Koi is what I like to call it. Polk County 48 over Copper Basin 13. That's two that grow up. It's kind of like Sequatchie Dunlap. You stop at a gas station to get gas. You don't know if they're Polk County or Copper Basin.
Yeah, that's over there almost where you get into the area where it's this side of nowhere.
Yeah.
When you get over in that area, but those two schools have been playing for a long time, and they're just on the outskirts of Chattanooga where you really don't know a whole lot about them. But they've been playing football there for a long time, and that's a big rivalry. I mean, they're right on top of each other.
the one that shocked me, and I'm going to struggle with this name a little bit, but it's Rayburn Gap-Naccoochee, Georgia, 35, Baylor, 24, Phil. Anytime Baylor loses a football game, somebody's really good.
Well, I guess that goes to show you, Randy, with a name like that, you got to be good. There's no doubt about it.
I hope that I didn't slaughter it, but I have a feeling that my first pronunciation of nachos and Rayburn wasn't right. I know that.
Yeah. But, that's some kind of name. That's like going out to IMG Academy. You know? When you have a name like that, you better be good. So it sounds like they were, because Baylor's got a good football team.
Red Bank rolls huge over defending state finalist Tyner, 44-6.
That was surprising to me. I mean, they dominated that game start to finish. Now, I don't know how many Tyner lost.
They graduated a lot.
They're always strong, but it goes to show you that Coach Gatewood's got, he's got that football team playing with a lot of confidence, and that may be one of those teams that makes a big long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of teams that struggled last year, 2-8 Ray County goes to Soddy Daisy and gets a 34-0 win over Soddy Daisy. Traditionally a huge rivalry, Phil. I think Ray County feels like they've got something to prove this year.
Yeah, I think so. Don't they play Red Bank this week?
I believe so. In my schedule, I was kind of looking over it, and I checked Red Bank, but I didn't write down who they were playing.
I think they do. I think Red Bank goes to Ray County week 2, so that's going to kind of be a measuring stick for them. But we saw them, even though they were playing against smaller schools, they look like they've got their feet on the ground. Very solid football team. So I'm not surprised at them beating Soddy Daisy like that. Because it's going to be a much improved football team, but a good test is going to be playing against Red Bank.
Sell Creek 29, Midway 12. Former Meigs County and Hickson coach Jason Fitzgerald now at Sell Creek. Phil, you got to feel like that program's on the up.
Yeah, probably so. And I can remember back, Sell Creek was just a little community. Unbelievable that they've got a football team now. But it may be to where they're fixing to get on the map. That was an impressive first win to start the season, and Sell Creek's 1-0, and I guess you just see what happens now.
Talked to a parent at this football game and said it was just a whale of a football game. Signal Mountain 34, McMinn Central 26.
Oh, yeah. Of course, these two, Signal Mountain there for a while had very good football teams, and they kind of sort of come back to the pack now. But yeah, that's a good way to start the season. A very good football game to start the year. I'm sure Signal Mountain feels pretty good getting out of the gate at 1-0 because their schedule is always brutal.
Yes, South Pittsburg, state number 2, I believe it is. But I think if you took a poll of the media in this area, we would all point to the direction of it's South Pittsburgh's to lose this year, 56-0 over Oliver Springs.
Yeah, they're going to be tough for anybody. South Pittsburg, they've had a couple move in, and they've got a line drawn in the sand. This team is expecting big things, and I think you're going to see it.
Got that big cross-state rivalry coming up here in a couple of weeks at South Pittsburg this year as North Jackson comes to South Pittsburg, and I'm looking forward to that game. Last game in there, 2 more games in our area. We'll get to the game I was at. Sweetwater 42, Sequoyah 14. And in the last game before we go back, Walker Valley 45, Notre Dame 8. Bradley County a 3-0, all win big, impressive games, Bill.
Oh, yeah, definitely so. Impressive wins to get out of the gate. And, of course, what I'm liking, Randy, is seeing a lot more of these teams that we're familiar with playing each other instead of having to travel so far. And
Kick the football off. It's probably a couple of minutes.
Because we've lost our traditional rivals. And, even Sequatchie County playing East Ridge, they're not, it's not two Chattanooga area schools playing, but they're close enough where they can be rivals.
Yes.
And the fans have a short trip into Chattanooga to East Ridge and can be back home. That way, it helps Sequatchie County with their traveling crowd instead of having to drive to Memphis. It seems like sometimes that they have to do.
We have to drive to Giles County, which is probably closer to Memphis than Chattanooga by far. Phil, let's move up to that Sequatchie.
Kick the football off. It's probably a couple of minutes before the kickoff. We're getting really close here. The referee is calling. It looks like Bledsoe has won the looks like Bledsoe will take the football to start the game. So Sequatchie County defers for the second half. I want to go through one thing, Jeff, before we kick off. You give me 2 keys and I'll give you 2 keys and we'll throw them back. So throw your 2 keys at me.
My 2 keys will be for Sequatchie, it'll be their defensive line. Can they get penetration? Can they kind of contain and stop Bledsoe's ball control offense?
You know what? These go together. Mine. Can Bledsoe County block Sequatchie County's defensive line?
Yep.
I don't think they can. I think that's the difference in this ball game come fourth quarter.
It could be. It could be. We'll see here in about 2 minutes.
And your others, Jeff?
And my others will be kind of opposite you. Can Bledsoe County's defensive line and defense get pressure on Sequatchie County's backfield and their young, new starting quarterback, Sam Evans?
The Warriors make their way across the field. Entering the stadium now are the homestanding Sequatchie Indians. Full crowd tonight. Get down here. A lot of people in the stands. They're still 3:47 to go in the first quarter.
From the 28.
3:47 to go in the first quarter. Sam was just in a hurry to get that off and had the defense he wanted. Bledsoe was still moving around. Griffith in the backfield, the 3 wide back in. Tate, Kelly, and McDaniel that we've seen so much already. No, excuse me, check me. That's Long. Tate. Evans will snap it, looking to throw it. Pressure wide open. He's got it up the field. Sam dives for the corner. Touchdown! Indians. Dove for the corner. Gets the football just inside the pylon. Heady play by Sam Evans to score.
Yeah, it just opened up over there for him. It looked like he was wanting to throw it over here. It looked kind of Bledsoe had it.
From the 28, the Warriors will snap the football. This time, Thomas is in the shotgun. Back to throw. Looking over the middle. Man open. Football caught. Number 1, Melton. He will go the distance. Looking for flags. No flags on the field. Touchdown. Thomas to Melton. Covers 72 yards.
Well-coached football team, so a well-coached football team is going to stay in.
Yes, absolutely. A second touchdown was set up by a turnover.
Sam Evans looks to Coach McIntyre with the play call. They'll signal it in. 10 seconds on the game clock. 3:55 to go in the quarter. Handed off this time to Chadwick. No, Evans pulls it down. He'll make one man miss. Touchdown!
Second touchdown from Sam Evans running. Phil, Sequatchie got him stopped. Was about to get the football back in excellent field position and got caught with 12 men on the field, giving Bledsoe a new set of downs. Inexcusable. You just hate to see something like that. And I'm sure Coach Mack was just sick with it after that had happened.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, that's it. That's one of those that kills you. Those are kind of the mistakes that really hurt you, especially if you give somebody a first down.
Absolutely. And then Bledsoe.
2nd and 9. 1 minute to go. Thomas back to throw. Pass open. Intercepted. Intercepted if he's got the football, and he does. Number 11 comes out of there with the football for the Indian, Gowan Brown. John Thomas makes his first mistake of the night, letting the ball hang a little bit, Jeff.
Before the Bledsoe kid does.
Yeah, well,
from the 28, the Warriors will snap the football. This time, Thomas
looking for a blow late in this game to put Bledsoe in their heels. Already up 7. Sam Evans in the backfield with Austin Griffith. Hand it to Griffith. Throw the slant over the middle. Pull the football out there. And you know what that is, Jeff? That is a touchdown. Indians.
Yeah, nice little design play call.
The game. And it sounds like that's the kind of the way the game went.
Absolutely up front. I thought the teams were kind of equal, except up front in both offensive and defensive line. I thought Sequatchie had a clear advantage, and the big tight end from Bledsoe County, Jace Raines. Coach Tabor took him and put him over Harrison Smith, who had 4 sacks in the jamboree, and Harrison was quiet except for 1 sack, Phil. But by doing that, I think they limited Jace to 2 catches for about 25 yards. Kept their quarterback off the ground, but one of their immediate main targets kind of wasn't available when you needed him, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, but that's what good players do. They make you change things. Most of the time it's just you against them, but when you got a player like Harrison Smith, you got to account for him. And so that probably means you're going to designate 2 players for him, so that makes that defense even tougher. And that's a good thing to have. Harrison Smith's going to be a wrecking ball for anybody they play, and everybody's got a scheme for him. And you always want coaches to have to coach. If
Absolutely.
You're playing against an opponent, you want them to have to coach, not line up and do what they want to. You want them to have to adjust to what you do.
Well, Phil, before we go any further, and we're here at the top of the hour, hopefully we'll catch this commitment. Let's run through next weekend, Alabama. Don't have a lot on Georgia. That's my fault. I was supposed to get it. But let's run through Alabama and Tennessee on a local side and see what we got coming up next week.
Well, of course, down here in Alabama, you've got the big one to start out of the gate is that battle for the Top Cat Trophy, and that's Scottsboro and Fort Payne.
Love that game.
At Fort Payne this time. That's going to be a dandy matchup for the first game of the season. There's no doubt about that.
I think that's one of the rivalries that's just far enough out of the Chattanooga area we don't realize how good it is. And I think sometimes Plainview and Sylvania, it's talked about up in this area, but the Fort Payne Wildcats and the Scottsboro Wildcats playing for the Top Cat Trophy game that you called many, many times.
Yeah, it definitely, it's always a great football game. Of course, Thursday night, it gets kicked off down here. I know Cedar Bluff's playing at Winterboro. Big rivalry here. Albertville plays against Arab. That's a big rivalry. And Thursday night, too, there's going to be a great game. Coosa, who's one of the top-ranked teams in Class 1A, plays Geraldine, who is going to be one of those teams that's going to challenge Sylvania for supremacy in Northeast Alabama. They play Thursday night. Or Section plays at Decatur Heritage. Valley Head hosts North Sand Mountain. Last year, Valley Head went up and surprised North Sand Mountain. I think kind of derailed their whole season. So that's going to be a great game to look at week 1. Also, big rivalry here. Spring Garden plays at Sandrock. Those two have been getting together for a long time. Collinsville hosts Pleasant Valley. And then Plainview opens their season. They'll be at home against Priceville. Priceville beat them last year, so I'm sure Plainview'd like to get off to a good start. And, of course, we've got some teams that won't play here. They'll start next week. That's Sylvania, who will play at Sachs. Ider don't play this week. They play at Asbury next week. Pisgah don't play this week. They'll play Lexington. And then, of course, Fife starts the season. They'll host Geraldine next week. And then also North Jackson's first game won't be until you have the Battle of the Valley week 1, and that is against Scottsboro. So an exciting start to the high school football season down here in Northeast Alabama.
And we got some primetime matchups in East Tennessee in the Chattanooga area. Let's go through those. One that caught my eye early on, Tyner at Bradley Central. Boy,
well, the thing is, though, after what Red Bank did to Tyner, Tyner's, I know traditionally they do well against these two teams, but Man alive, they jump right in and play against Bradley Central. Boy, that's a tough way to start the season.
Yes, it is. Boyd Buchanan at Brainerd, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, and I sent you an article, Howard and Brainerd is scheduled for UTC this week, was canceled due to some fears of adult violence at the football game is a nice way to put it, Phil. Gang-related stuff, and it's a shame. We'll say to the adults listening, it's a shame that the kids can't play football for the adults fighting in the stands.
No, I seen a thing, Ark, and I made a comment about that. It's a shame of what we're teaching our young people. These kids just want to go out and play football. It's a rivalry. It's two schools that, are familiar with each other. They want to play, definitely so, because they're crosstown rivals. And it's a shame that these kids don't get to play because of the way society is today. But that's what you have in big cities anymore.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that has become. Our world's turned upside down. And it's a shame that the kids and coaches at Howard, and it's a shame that the kids at Brainerd and the coaches and your fans, especially parents, get to miss out on that game because people have just gotten crazy. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Let these kids, leave them alone and let them go out and have a little fun for about 2.5 hours because, they've got their whole life ahead of them. Who knows where they're going to end up, but let them enjoy life for a little while.
Phil, originally scheduled Coach D from Howard was going to be on tonight with us. I chose not to bother him right now because the media requests are all going to be negative. And yes. I thought we would leave him alone. Maybe, Coach D, if you happen to be listening, I'll reach out to you tomorrow, talk to you. But I didn't want to talk to him after that situation, Phil. I feel like it had been putting Coach D in a bad place.
Well, I think it puts both coaches in a bad situation. It breaks their heart because it breaks the heart of the kids.
Right.
And, and you worry about those kids, and you worry about their confidence, and you worry about their futures, and you get crushed right out of the gate. And how do you go in and face those young men, telling them because, people's gotten crazy, you can't go out and play the game you love. It's just not fair.
It's not. It's really not. And, won't harp on it. I'm just a member of this community. I'm a member of Hamilton County. And I read some stuff. I don't know if it's true. I know originally they were going to play at UTC. Even tried to move the game maybe to a neutral site where nobody would know they were at, Phil. And didn't have no success with that. Kind of got turned down. But was talk about playing where there would only be parents and, family there and maybe even playing on a baseball field at a local establishment. But it's a shame you have to reach to that point even to think of that. But, let's get it fixed, folks. Phil, Chattanooga Central's at Chattanooga Christian. Another big game. Again, McMinn County is getting all the Bradley County they want. McMinn County at Cleveland are to be another Donnybrook.
Yeah, that would be going to be a great football. It would be a great football game between them two. The Cherokees of McMinn County. I remember them when I lived in Chattanooga. They were always going to get a good fight when they came to town. Kind of like waiting on Ray County.
Yes.
You were going to get two of the best that were coming in, but it was always fun to watch them.
Of course, we talked about Sequatchie at East Ridge. Going to see our friend Coach Barger over there. Chattanooga Prep plays at Howard. Howard gets to open their season there. Just going down. Lookout Valley plays Mount Juliet Christian at Lookout Valley. Hickson at Meigs County. And Meigs is a multi-time state finalist in the last 5 years, but I kind of look for this. Meigs is down a little bit, and I look for this Hickson team to get off the snide a little bit.
This could be that confidence builder they need. Keep it basic. Let's go to work and see what happens.
Signal Mountain at Notre Dame. Walker Valley at Polk County. But the next one to me is the big one. Red Bank travels to Ray County. Phil, that's first of all, that's traditional football. That's back when it was 3A football in this region. Those two teams, even though Ray's 5A, Red Bank's 4 now, they still get after each other with everything they got.
Oh yeah, because it's two great fan bases over the years when they played each other. Because I can remember when I went to school in Chattanooga, it was always great to play Ray County. But this is going to be a measuring stick game for both teams, definitely. So, and this is one of those that if I had an opportunity to go watch a game, I'd like to go watch this one.
Yeah, I may try to steal the huddle film, not steal it, but get somebody to let me see the huddle film on that one so I can catch up on it. Another good game, another traditional rivalry in the Chattanooga area, Ooltewah at Soddy Daisy. Somebody's going to get right there, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, Ooltewah, off to a 1-0 start. They can get that win over Soddy Daisy. They'll be 2-0. That'll match the wins from a year ago. And that'll be a great building block for this Ooltewah football team to start the season. Of course, Soddy Daisy may be a little bit down right now, but, it's going to be one of those for them. They're going to have to draw a line in the sand. They've got to get better.
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
week one if they're going to have an opportunity against Ooltewah.
And I think a team we've seen in the Jamboree that's opening in their year that's really opening it, and I think they Greenback, traditional small school power in this area, opens at Whitfield Field, and this Whitfield team pretty impressive in the backfield and may go as far as their quarterback carries them.
Oh, definitely so. That young man's very, of course, I think they beat Hudland, didn't they, the first week of the year, like 21-6.
I don't know why.
So they're off to a good start. Yeah, you can tell they're going to go as far as their quarterback takes them because he's also a key component on their defense. If he stays healthy, they're going to win some football games. They're probably not going to be on the level with the South Pittsburg, but still 6, 7, 8 wins is possible for this football team.
I think they played Thursday night. That's the reason I missed the score.
Did they? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Phil, let's, of course, a great weekend. And you will kick off the scoreboard with Jeff Allen this week, correct?
Yeah, definitely. We start Friday night.
What? And this is crazy, but I've always wondered, what is week one like for you all with about 5 minutes from the commitment of Jordan Ross? I want to talk about him too in just a second, Phil. What's week one like for y'all? Kind of week zero, as you call it. Kind of got things all over the place, but not a full schedule, but enough of a schedule, correct?
There's enough to talk about because we, can actually preview things a little bit and talk about a little bit about last year. And of course, our biggest thing in that week zero for us is kind of getting our feet wet again, kind of keeping it basic and get our feet on the ground, to find out where we're going to go. But there's enough games to talk about. And of course, the big thing for us is being able to get coaches to call and interview them. That takes up a lot of the show. Fans of course, they want to hear the scores over and over again. But that's always a great thing that we have, that we can spend time with 4 or 5 coaches each week. And anytime Jeff will text or send a message to one of them, they gladly call in if there's a way possible. Very rarely do we ever get turned down. So that adds a lot to the show. But, it's basically just getting our feet wet. But there's enough games around. We'll have plenty to talk about.
Phil, one other thing about the radio station, and I don't know if we've hit on it enough here, something Jeff puts together, I think, is absolutely brilliant. And frankly, I'm trying to repeat it in Tennessee, but the North Alabama Media Days, and I think this is kind of a creation of Jeff Allen. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's great. I get to go to 3 of them, the one in Etowah County and the one in Marshall County and the one in DeKalb and Jackson County. Oh, it's a lot of fun. You get to actually get to talk to coaches, and they'll tell you how much they appreciate what we do because it's the only time we really get to see them face to face. So we get to see a lot of the people that covers the area in sports, the TV stations, your other newspapers, your other radio stations even the ones that are competing with us. But you all get together for a few minutes and get to visit, because you won't see each other the rest of the year because everybody's so busy. But it's great, and the coaches like it because they get to bring the kids, and the kids get to be on stage and talk just a little bit. And that's part of the learning process of making these kids men, making them get up in front of people and speak, public speak. It's great for them. It helps their confidence, and it also helps them when they're leaders on the football field that they're not afraid to stand up and say something.
Last year we started with 4 seniors at Sylvania, and we were dedicated to having the senior class represent Sylvania's players. And after the second week of Howie and I and Coach Van doing it, I texted Howie and I said, what have we signed up for? Because you couldn't hardly get them to talk, Phil. And there was 1 or 2 that would talk. And by the end of the year, it was just like all Howie and I had to do was say, welcome to the Tyler Van Show. And it was literally them going at it full force, and they get comfortable and they get, where they know what's going on and they feel better about it.
Yeah, well, they're just like the kids are when we put them on stage. It's like when the coaches get up there, at first they really didn't know what to expect. We're not asking for secrets.
No.
When you get up there, we want you to give us basic answers because that's what this is all about. We want to know some other things, but we don't want to know your X's and O's. We don't want to know your plays. We don't want to know the secrets of how your program works. You'll share what you want to share. So that's why we ask general questions. And once coaches get comfortable with you, then they will give you those basic answers. But then, then you'll kind of try to find a little tidbit to get, because what makes them tick after you get to know them. And you ask him questions. I like what Coach Van, all you got to do is ask him about his newborn son. Got it. He's going to talk about that. That's the kind of thing. Or you talk about his wife, about what she means and those kind of things. Those are the kind of things that coaches like to talk about. They get tired of talking about the X's and O's of football. They want to talk about life too. And that's what, when they open up to you that way, that's what makes it fun. We don't care how many games you won. We don't care how many games you think you're going to win. We want to know about life.
It's doing the Coach Van Show, and sorry, everybody, I was plugging in so I could see the On3 report. I'm trying not to play it and keep Phil on, but if you want to go watch On3 for this commitment, go watch them. We're going to sit here while we talk about it a little bit and see if we can't get a little information in on it too. Coach Van, really good guy. Coach Van has quickly become one of my favorite coaches ever, Phil. But the one thing I had to convince him to do this podcast really wasn't convincing him, but just, tell him I'm not getting into his game plan. And every now and then I'll text him and ask him something. And it's now he trusts me to tell me without me telling the world. Like, I saw something in North Jackson film him and I had talked about, and I texted him. I said, are you doing that so you can do this? He goes, absolutely. So it's nice to be that close to a coach,
Yeah. Yeah, because you're not sharing secrets. That's like any time I ever talk to a coach. I might see Coach Midfield somewhere. I'll see Coach Hammond somewhere. I'll see these coaches somewhere, and we talk to them. But I don't use anything like that against them. And sometimes we'll talk about personal things. Coach Benefield, when you get him away from football, he'll talk to you about personal things, but you don't go using it to,
you don't use it in a broadcast
for your own advancement. Yeah. He'll just share. If you ask him honestly off the record, he'll share stories with you. He don't mind telling you. And a lot of times he'll joke about something. Like I'll ask him one time. I asked him a question, Coach, can I ask you about so and so? And he says, yeah, you can ask me, but I'm not going to answer. And he's just his way.
Yeah.
He said, you can ask me any question you want to like that. He said, but I'm not going to answer.
Well, I asked him about
and he just laughs about it. So.
I asked him about his all-state tight end one time, Phil. He threw it to him 28 times in 2 years. And kid's at UAB right now. And he told me, I go, Coach, couldn't you have thrown it to him a little more? And he goes, well, I threw it to him 28 times. And he got 21 touchdowns. I don't know what you're going to I don't know what more you want. And it was just the funniest response I ever heard.
Oh, yeah, because he always talks about, people in the stands wanting him to throw the football. And he goes, why? Of course, I heard one coach say that, we need to get a whole lot of these coaches out of the stands to start participating. It sure would make my job easier.
That is it.
Out there and showed me they know so much about it. It really would help if they get out there and help.
Phil,
of course, Brody Dalton, who you're talking about, he transferred to Troy.
Oh, did he?
I seen some pictures online. Yeah, that his family went down to visit him. He's in Troy now. So, hats off to him. We might get to see him on TV again. Definitely. Of course, I hated really that he kind of left UAB because they had it scheduled. UAB is going to be coming to Knoxville, which would have been his senior year.
Well, I hate that.
That would have been great to see because maybe we could have gotten to holler at him, after the game or whatnot. But he's gone to Troy now, and I don't think Tennessee plays Troy anytime soon. So, but that's okay. We want to wish Brody Dalton the best because, son, he is a monster right now.
Phil, we got 3.8 thousand people online watching Jordan Ross, which I'm one of them right now. And I'm trying to keep the volume down so nobody can hear it because On Three deserves their moment here. They put this content out. And I want On Three, if you want to go watch and listen, go to On Three on YouTube and listen. Or if you'd rather stay here with me and Phil, we'll walk you through it. Phil, let me ask you a question about Vestavia Hills. Why do you think other schools besides Alabama has success recruiting Vestavia?
I think what it is, it's just like anywhere else. It's in a big city. These kids are looking for a home, and they're going to go wherever they feel like they're at home. And I think that's what happens in communities like that. And it doesn't matter if it's Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, they're going to go where they feel like, and that's what this kid was talking about, what he liked about Tennessee. He felt like that he was part of, and he said the coaching staff told him, how important he was. And so that's what sold him, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for a home. And, because these kids thrive when they get in a great environment like that. They really do thrive. And I think that's what kids like that are looking for. Because in the big city areas, we have great support from communities here. Our kids don't want to leave these communities. But in the big cities, they want to get out. And sometimes they want to get far enough away where they won't come back home. They don't want to be within driving distance of home.
And Vestavia,
a lot of kids.
Vestavia to Tuscaloosa is a very, an hour, a little over an hour drive. So if he wants to get away from home to go to college, you can see why Alabama might not be his first choice, even though one of the finalists.
Yeah, well, and it could be that they don't really have a real plan for him like another school would.
Yeah.
Florida may have a good plan for him. Tennessee may have a good plan for him, and he feels like he fits that plan. Where Alabama may run something different defensively, he don't feel like he's going to belong. And, that has a lot to do with it, too. And I think a big thing, too, with him, what I read, academics. That's a big thing with him. So evidently Mom has put a real emphasis on academics. And I think that's a big thing of what's going to win him.
I also think, and there's not a bad choice in here in Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Alabama. I was shocked when he announced his Final Four field did not include Auburn, who many thought was the leader. Auburn's been very heavily involved in the NIL game, and that's not an insult; it's just a fact. And
what may have hurt them there is new coaching staff.
Could be.
See, he's built relationships with the other schools he has finals with. They've been there, so he has relationships built. Well, he lost the relationship he had at Auburn, so that probably X'd him out. So if this was Hugh Freeze's third year, then they would probably be in the hunt.
Phil, what does it mean with Steve Sarkisian, even though he's at Texas now, all the years he spent at Alabama, recruiting back in Alabama, and seemingly have success in Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia with Texas, an area that none of them have been to before. So Jordan Ross right now puts on the Florida hat, teasing everybody, as he always does. Edge Jordan Ross commits to the University of Tennessee. Phil, big gift. We're both Tennessee fans. Very big gift for Tennessee to get the 5-star out of Vestavia Hills.
So he did commit to Tennessee.
He did. And that's been the word.
Most of the people, they really didn't have what do you call them, where they do the thing where, most of them says, where he's going to go.
Yeah.
Everybody didn't really have an idea. But, from what I saw, they thought Tennessee had the inside track because he spent so much time at Tennessee.
Well, let me just go ahead and tell Jordan, I don't have the volume on. You gave this old man a little bit of a heart attack with that Florida hat. So you got me on that one. But, of course, and Phil, let me address another thing. You and I have been in this game a long time. Amari Jefferson from Chattanooga commits to Nick Saban in Alabama, and I just felt like Amari wanted to play at Alabama, wanted to play for Nick Saban. And sometimes, even though they grow up in Chattanooga or Knoxville or Nashville or Vestavia Hill, you just don't grow up bleeding orange or rolling tide. Sometimes you just don't grow up a fan of that school,
Yeah, well, and there's other factors involved too. You got the NIL things, maybe something academically at Alabama he's looking to be.
Yeah.
That maybe the other schools didn't offer. There's a lot of times you don't matter what color helmet you put on, especially with these kids that are great athletes because they're pulled from all sides.
Yeah.
There's something that captures you. It may be a coach a lot of times, but, it's not a good thing really to follow a certain coach. You need to follow your heart, follow the kids you meet, follow the academics, and if you feel comfortable, because a coach can leave at any time, and you're going to lose that relationship, because you're supposed to be committed for 3 or 4 years. So, and sometimes you may not feel like you fit, and you may look around and say, hey, I think I can get on the field faster if I go to Alabama than if I go to Tennessee. We don't know the insides of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And just like with the kid at Vestavia Hills, Tennessee had a plan for him, and he's talked about it, how they made him feel important, that he's needed, and they did that. Well, Alabama's staff probably did a good job of showing him where he was immediately needed and what they were going to do with him, and were upfront and honest with him. So he felt comfortable. So, it's just the kind of things that just happen. Sometimes you're just not a fit for who everybody thinks, well, hey, he's from Chattanooga, he should go to Tennessee. Well, that ain't always the case.
Amari Jefferson.
Always the case.
Amari Jefferson was nothing but class, nothing but a good kid when he went to Alabama, as I said many, many times. I'm never going to root for Amari Jefferson.
2nd and 9, 1 minute to go. Thomas back to throw. Pass open, intercepted. Intercepted if he's got the football, and he does. Number 11 comes out of there with the football for the Indian, Gowan Brown. John Thomas makes his first mistake of the night, letting the ball hang a little bit, Jeff.
He's a person, and that's what's important. When they take that helmet off, you can hate him for 3 hours on the third Saturday in October, but after that, you're going to love him.
Yeah, well, I think we all know what happened in Knoxville this year, and I left there high as a kite, but I also left there singing the praises of Mr. Bryce Young. So sometimes there's brilliance in other color uniforms too,
Yeah, it's one of them where, like most Alabama fans will tell you, he played the game of his life against Tennessee, and I don't doubt it because he was just unreal.
Yeah. Well, Phil, normally we've done guests, and I enjoy that part, and we'll get back to that. But it's nice just to get on here and actually talk about games that matter and games that count it, and we're 2 weeks out from college football. I guess we're going to have to get a little preview of the SEC at some point. before the kickoff of that first week.
Has ESPN not done enough of that? I
Yeah.
get so tired of turning over there and they're analyzing who's the most explosive player and who's this and who's that. I told Chris today, I said, watching ESPN now is like going to Dollar General in July and watching them put Christmas stuff out.
I get
so frustrated. The same old crap from a different angle over and over and over. Football's not that complicated. It's not a complicated game. And they make it sound like there's just, it's like a chess game. It's not a chess game. It's basics. And go watch football, understand football. I'll hear people talk about, and I know it's where they've heard it on Paul Feinbaum or ESPN. I'm like, don't listen to that crap. That's all scripted.
Yeah.
These people that stands up there, those stories are written for them by writers. They don't know what
fun.
The crap they're talking about most of the time. Most of them ain't even never played football.
I love watching and rest their soul though. Phyllis from Mugla. If they wasn't writing that stuff for her, I don't know who was, because that lady would just make me laugh every time she come on. Yeah. Just ran about Alabama stuff. So
yeah.
But you know what? I would like to get a schedule preview out, if nothing else. Maybe we can sit down and go through Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, and maybe the Monks. We need to talk a little about Monks, and need to talk a little bit about Troy and Jacksonville, and
Jacksonville for sure. Because Jacksonville's going to have a lot of Tuesday games. I'm going to try to go to at least one. I know that it's planning on carrying their team down on a Tuesday night game, and I'd like to go see that because I think they're on twice on Tuesday nights. So, and Jacksonville's really expanding. They've got a new football facility being built. They're adding to the stadium. So Jacksonville's one of those schools that's on the up and up, and they're bringing in some great teams in the future. I know they've signed a home and home with Southern Mississippi. I'd love to go see Southern Miss and Jacksonville play down in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and we've got another show. We need to get Coach Clark, who's committed to do a couple of different shows with us. Coach Clark, new head softball coach at Gadsden State, but remains on the Sylvania staff for this football season, Phil. So, that's pulling double duty. But, as soon as this is over with, his commitment is to be at Gadsden State and get that softball team ready.
Yeah, that'd be a great one to have on. It's funny how you coach football, now you're going to coach softball. But, a teacher is a teacher. It don't matter what they coach. If you're a teacher, you can be a good football coach or a softball coach or whatever it may be. Biggest thing is you got to be able to teach.
He came to Sylvania as a softball coach, coached boys baseball for a couple of years, then chose to go back to girls softball. He had a horrible assistant, he said, last year, and his name was Coach Tyler Van. Said he needed to.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He said when you get Coach Van to show up, he was his assistant. So Coach will tell you, he said getting him there is his hardest thing to do. Of course, he's a little busy this spring having a new baby and everything else, but Coach Van wants to support Sylvania athletics no matter what they are.
Yeah, no matter football, basketball. And I love coaches that are that way. I know like down here at Valley Head, Coach Hammond, he wants to support the track team. Everybody works out together.
Yeah.
So, and what he does in selling the kids on that, he goes, hey, we're Tigers. We want to support our volleyball team. We want to support our track team. We're Tigers. When they lose, we lose.
Absolutely.
So he gets them. They're all working out the same. Boys and girls work out different, but everybody works out and does the same workout. And that's why, they want to build school spirit that, hey, when the basketball team loses, the football team loses too. So, and that's a great way of doing things.
Well, and Phil, we get it here. Of course, I am so connected with Sequatchie County football, but my daughter goes to Hickson, and you better believe I support the Hickson Wildcats with every thread that's in my body. And it's not, sometimes you just get torn in 2 or 3 different ways, and you might have a rooting interest over a couple of different schools even. I mean, I'm a Wildcat, but I graduated from Ray County, and I called Sequatchie County football, so I got a lot of rooting interest up this way. But at the end of the day, where my baby girl's at. That we're all Wildcats, you know.
Oh, yeah, blood's thicker than water. That's the way that goes.
Yeah.
That's like with me being on the school board show. I root for everybody. I want everybody to win. I wish every kid could win. It just ain't going to happen that way. And the longer you stay in media and you're in a neutral position like I am, you know, it's sweet when Valley Head wins. But if they don't, that's okay. I'll root for somebody else. So,
yeah, I got you.
I want Ider to do well. I want Collinsville to do well. There's schools around me that I have built relationships with coaches. Like I've gotten to know a lot of people down at Collinsville because I run my route down there. So you root for the individual. You want, the coaching staff to do well. You want Coach Tidmore, the basketball coach at Collinsville, to do well because I've known him for a long time. So you take a little bit of interest when you're involved with those programs. Anytime you can say a good thing about them, it's good to do because you want to support them.
You know, I tell everybody I've become the biggest fan of our closest rivals. I can't say that I've got any closer friends in the coaching fraternity than Coach Barger at East Ridge, Coach Starkey at Marion, Coach Tabor at Bledsoe County. You just become – you want to beat them. Don't get me wrong. I was happy to beat Coach Tabor. But if I called Coach Tabor and asked him for a 15-minute interview tomorrow, he would be like, "Sure, Randall, what do you need?" And Phil, that's being a man and being representing your school and your community well.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. And, and after a while, when you put those wins and losses behind you and you move on, because the biggest thing is you want to promote your kids. It don't matter if they lose 10 or win 10. It doesn't matter.
Well, Phil, before we get off tonight, and we're going to wrap it up tonight, I want to send everybody to the Sequatchie County School Board, School Systems YouTube online. It's posted on River City Media. Or if you're in the Sequatchie Valley, BTC, the local cable channel, local access cable channel, showing the game all week. Or you can go to 93.3 Country Roads, the Nickajack Network, and you can listen to my call, Jeff Barger's call, on any of the three. But if you can, let me encourage you to go support the school's YouTube, because that's run by the students for the school. Hear the same information. And they had 1,000 views the first night, Phil. To me, that was wonderful.
Oh, yeah. That's great when you see that. And it's also good when you win, too. That builds a lot more interest. And then, as they keep winning, the interest will keep growing and the audience will grow. So, that's always a great thing.
And this week, Phil, at the studios at WQSB for all the North Alabama news and high school football scores. I'm going to be on the road at East Ridge. Of course, you can get the scores in Tennessee on the Coca-Cola Red Zone and the scores in North Alabama. But come here Monday, we're going to have a little segment like this every week where we talk about the local schools. And hopefully, Phil, we'll do it a little faster next time, and we'll still have our interview segment, our news and notes segment. It's kind of, we knew this week would be kind of a new thing because we had to get the scoreboard in, but we can probably do the scoreboard in 45 minutes and still have some great guests on.
Well, we can just, roughly go through the scores and then roughly talk about who plays and just touch on a couple of games. So we can cut that down to where it's short.
Yep, and don't know who we're going to have. I do need to get Coach D in, but we'll let you know. We'll post it on River City Media. Enjoyed it tonight, Phil.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to run down here to the Valley Head School, see if I can help out do a couple of things.
Absolutely. For Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, quarterback 1. This is Beyond the Booth. Join us next week. Good night and God bless.